Thank you everyone for coming to our final general meeting of the year. We're just gonna have quick wrap-ups from each project and then we'll let the new officers for next year introduce themselves and we'll call it a day. So we're gonna start off with Drew and Ellie with their seizure prediction project.
Hi, I'm Ellie.
And I'm Drew.
So our project was to design a way to predict oncoming seizures, and we wanted it to be a wearable device. So beginning with our research, we were finding different ways that seizures could be detected. One of them was through an odor, one of them was through heart rate variability, and the other was through electrodermal response. And we ended up finding that heart rate variability and gathering that through an ECG would be the most beneficial. And so that's what we decided upon focusing our project on.
So in terms of hardware, we got everyone in our group Arduinos with different sensors. We got some different heart rate sensors, and we did actually buy some of the GSR sensors, which is galvanic skin response. We tested those and they didn't give great data, so we stuck with the heart rate. And that heart rate you see on screen is a screen capture from our heart rate code and sensors. For software, our prediction model that we decided to try to get to work is a neural network from training data of seizure patients with their ECG files. And we found an open source data set from a data sharing site. So we downloaded that and converted the files to be used in TensorFlow. We sent the files off to a couple of software members who said that they could help us out, but I think we might have taken a little too long to get it to them. So I don't think we're going to have that back by the end of the year. I'm still hoping that maybe they send it to us over the summer and we could add it to our archive. But if not, we have all of the edited files in our archive that someone else could use in TensorFlow in the future.
Great, thank you. And then moving on to the gluten sensor project, the team lead for this is actually Tanvi, but she couldn't be here today. So I'm just going to kind of go through what she wrote. So their objective for the year was to find a method to accurately detect hydrolyzed gluten proteins and turn that method into something that's user-friendly and portable. So in the fall, they had a little literature review, did a lot of research and looked into how current sensors work and what any drawbacks are for them. And they also identified previously validated antibody-based detection methods for gluten. That way they could work off of something, not build something straight from scratch. In the winter, they identified the toxic sequence in gluten that needs to be detected. They developed a testing approach for the gluten. And they also began kind of brainstorming mechanical design concepts for the whole integrated device. And then in the spring, what they've been doing mostly is consulting with faculty on an appropriate quantification method for kind of the endpoint of their device, and also working on a protocol for the proposed approach that they could use in the fall. So this project is going to be continuing. And what they're looking to do starting next year is actually starting the testing methods and working with faculty to get some lab space so they can see if everything they've come up with this year works and see if they can get a prototype working. Yeah.
So our initial objective was to decrease bias in the evaluation of pain, especially as it leads to women's health. And so in the beginning of or during fall quarter, we worked on doing literature reviews, trying to see what literature is out there regarding pain communication, pain perception, pain evaluation to kind of get an idea of what the general approach to that was. The main takeaway we found is that it's been really, really hard to develop an objective standard because of how subjective the perception aspect is. It can be determined by mood, activity level, drug use, both prescription and illicit. Or if you have chronic pain or if you have acute pain, those can change the way you perceive that pain, even if it's roughly the same level. So we also interviewed some doctors, I think a chiropractor, some physical therapists, and then we took that and decided that it would not be beneficial to create another chart since there are so many out there, and instead decided that it'd be better to go for something that was hybrid of what already exists and would help do act as more of a data collection device. And the hope of this was to develop a standard for individual patients that doctors could compare their the way they rate their pain to. And this would be useful that they could still use current tools, but it would then again be standardized. So we wireframed that towards the end of winter quarter, and during this time we had also developed a survey to understand kind of pain communication preferences. We got IRB approval after about a quarter. That took a little longer than we had hoped, and got that out around March-ish and let our survey be distributed for about a month. Got that back with about 48 results, participants, and in the lower right corner is an example of some of the data we got. This isn't the best graph that we have, but basically what it's showing is that how do you identify as a female, male, non-binary? It should be noted we only had one non-binary participant, so the data is not very helpful. It's generally a very small sample, so it's not super helpful, but the non-binary especially is just kind of ignore that because of the only one participant. But it goes how do you identify versus did you address the pain with a healthcare professional? And the gray and blue bars are total counts, and then the orange and yellow bars are percentages of each sample population. And like it, again, it's small, so there's not much you can take from it. But we also compared like what pain tool were you what pain evaluation tool were you given? How long did it take for you to evaluate your pain and come up with a treatment plan or to treat it? The above that is from our open coding, where we downloaded a bunch of reviews for pain tracking apps that are already out there, and to see what customers preferred, what they cared about. And the most helpful aspect of that was accessibility was very frequently commented on. And that is something that would be very important to implement into our app. And I'll go into the wireframing really quickly if I can. Oh, wait, Allie, can you click on the link?
Yeah, sorry. Okay, you can see the window, right?
Yeah. So if up in the top is more of our settings, yeah, right there. Those are all of our settings. They include like language, size of the font, color for like colorblind, audio scripts for people who might be blind or be visually impaired, the ability to connect with the patient portal to decrease the amount of paperwork potentially needed and to increase communication capabilities with doctors. And then, so below that, we have the general layout of, there we go, yeah. Oh, privacy would be important because it would need to be HIPAA compliant. A little further down. Yeah. View data report. So in the corner, yeah, you can navigate to entering like a pain pain data. So that would be taken, the data input system that we kind of adopted was the brief pain inventory kind of survey. And the way it works is you would indicate like an adjective that you associate with your pain on kind of a little list, and they kind of go from more minimal to worse. And it would average out your answers to see kind of where you are in terms of your pain. You'd indicate your mood, so you could compare and see how like your mood affects your pain. Your activity would be helpful for like doctors. The most helpful for doctors would be activity versus pain, but in terms of a research sense, where we would hope that or activity versus the Wong-Baker chart, which would help validate the data. But for research purposes, it would be more interesting to see how like mood affects the pain adjectives. And so that's where our project's at. And we are not continuing to next year because it would be more CS focused and require quite in-depth understanding of software programming. But
Okay, I'm just going to re-screen share really quick. Okay, so now moving on to my project, which was the electrolyte monitor. So this actually started.
I don't think it's
Oh, is it not screen sharing?
No, it's still on pain evaluation.
Okay, shoot. Let me actually read. Okay. Is all good? Okay, awesome. Okay, so moving on to the electrolyte monitor project. Basically, we started actually a few years ago. And the goal was to find a way to non-invasively monitor electrolytes because current systems require drawing blood and then sending samples to an external lab. So the goal is to find a way to measure electrolytes at the point of care without kind of decreasing the specificity or the accuracy of the test too much. And the way that we're aiming to do that is by implementing this thing called reverse iontophoresis, where you apply a small amount of current to the skin, and that kind of gets the electrolyte to come out of the skin and be measured. And the proportion of that is relative to the proportion in your blood. So that's basically how that works. And our goal for this year was basically to kind of regroup. We had a lot of new members, so kind of catching up everyone with like what was going on with the project. And then mostly for the past 2 quarters, we've been looking at coming up with a prototype and a system for bench testing each of the aspects of the device, because there's kind of electronics component. There's sort of some modeling that has to be done to figure out like what readings we're supposed to be getting. And then also there's some ergonomics at play with the wristband design. So in winter quarter, I kind of split it up by those different things so people could kind of have different technical focuses. I had a couple workshops for like SolidWorks, had some people working on the circuit setup. And then also there's someone else working on kind of the microelectronics part, which will mostly probably be getting done next year. And our goals for next year are basically just to kind of finish up everything we started, finish up the testing of the separate aspects, and then kind of bring them all together. So we have a device that kind of works together, and we're not like transferring data back and forth. It's all kind of integrated into one simple thing and can be actually used by someone. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Awesome. So my name is Kaise, and I'm co-leading this project with Kajal. And this project's in its 3rd year now, and I've been leading it for about 1.5 years now. starting in winter 2020, so kind of right before we all got sent home. But I picked up this project from the previous leads, and when I picked it up, I didn't change the course of the project much as far as its objective, and that was to make an innovative approach towards the mechanism of needleless injection to try and address problems of size, discretion, and accessibility. And so, I guess talking from this fall, I was able to get a whole new team and work alongside a lot of other members. And we were able to take a lot of time to design, kind of go through different sketches, models, and different types of mechanisms as far as how we want this to kind of be activated. And we were able to kind of come up with an idea, and that was something we further developed in winter quarter. And the final model for it is on the left, the SolidWorks model. It's kind of an expanded assembly view of it. But the main mechanism is using a CO2 cartridge that will be being the power source to actually push on the fluid in order to eject it from a very small orifice from a nozzle. And so that'll actually create jet flow, and it'll actually be able to perforate into the skin and actually be injected and dispersed into the intermuscular area as the normal EpiPen does currently. And one of the areas that we were trying to solve is size. And you can see in the middle picture, that's one of the prototypes we have. You can see that it's quite easily held by hand. And we also have a nice casing to it, a grip and a loop for someone to be able to hold on to it. And we found that was important in order to make sure it's pocketable or easily able to be kept in a bag. That way it's not that hard to take with you, or something you could put on a keychain as well. That way you also kind of just take it with you rather than having to always remember where it is and when to take it. And another area we thought was device discretion. We wanted to make sure that it's not blatantly, it's not something that's very blatant and obvious that you have, and in the case that you don't want to necessarily advertise holding this product. And so we wanted to maintain a low profile as much as possible so that the device is able to do what it needs to do only when you want it to, and nothing else, nothing more. And accessibility. We were finding that there's definitely a large population of people with a needle phobia, and that phobia of needles is one area that we want to limit that barrier to access. And we wanted to make sure that that phobia of needles wouldn't act as a barrier to taking this item with someone, because we found that a lot of people who are aware of needing an EpiPen won't take it because they might be afraid of the needle that it contains. And so we found that if you can try and use needleless injection, that can make it a lot more accessible to people who might have a phobia of needles. And in those cases, taking this device with them isn't sort of a last-ditch effort where they ultimately never want to use it. We wanted to make sure that it's something that's safe and reliable for a user, and that way they won't be afraid of actually carrying it with them. And on the right, the image we have is one of the installation tools we have. We found that once we made the assembly, the next step is actually putting it all together. And we were able to have one of our members create a contraption that we can use to make the assembly of the overall device a lot easier. And with that, we're able to actually load it as needed. And currently right now, we're kind of right on the cusp of getting a full test in. I think in just a matter of days, we're just waiting on some parts to come in. And so we're really hoping to get a full test of this and have a chance to look at it. But it's been difficult to try and design and manufacture and get different components in and everything. But I think the team this year did a great job all around overall, and definitely was very happy to work with them this year. And this project won't be continuing with NDC next year. However, it might potentially be with CIE under Dr. Katona next year. So that's currently a potential avenue and an area where we can kind of work more on testing and development of it. But we're really looking forward to testing it very, very soon and hoping that we can get some real data to work with out of the design. Yeah. Yes, we can, yeah, Ali, you and I, we can have some closing thoughts now, is it?
Yeah. I mean, the main thing I want to say was just like, thank you all for coming and supporting us this year. I know it was like a lot harder to kind of be motivated to show up for stuff, but we really appreciate it. And we're really excited to see where the new board takes the club next year. But yeah, thanks for sticking with us, and we'll definitely all be around next year. So hopefully we can meet some of you in person and stuff like that.
Yeah, once again, thank you for your continued support on this year. We really enjoyed working with everyone and can't thank you enough about it. It's been a great chance to support the club, to try and house as many interdisciplinary projects that can focus on a variety of different topics and issues, and give a lot of students the chance to work on these projects and not be left out of the project environment that we can have here. And I've had a great time working with you all in this club, and I'm really looking forward to what all the new officers do for this next year. And like Ali mentioned, we definitely all want to have a chance to meet you all next year, and we'll all definitely be around. But from here on out, I'd like to hand it off to our new officers, and I'd like to let them introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Ryana Gutierrez. I will be your co-president next year. I'm a second-year BMed currently. I actually want to take the time to thank every officer on the current board right now, because they've done a fantastic job at maintaining the club and providing students with an exceptional and educational opportunity this year. Given that we were online, I bet that brought many challenges to running the club. So thank you guys for putting in time and effort.
All right, and I'm Ryan Adams. I will also be your co-president. I'm a second-year BMed. I worked on a paid evaluation project this year. But yeah, I guess building off what Ryana said, yeah, I mean, just to maintain this club and to still be able to have some great projects and still be able to prototype, and the officers were working with us to build our prototypes and keep these projects flowing. I mean, it was just fantastic. It was definitely a nice outlet for us students who, I mean, we're stuck online and we're not getting in person working on hands-on stuff. So it was a great outlet to actually get on some of these projects and actually be able to work on something tangible. So thank you guys, appreciate it.
Hi everybody, I'm Jenna Eisman. I'm co-VP with Emily, and I don't think Emily's here today, but I'm a second-year BMed as well, and I'm really excited for next year, especially as Ryan and Ryana touched on, with all the amazing things that the current officers did. That brought in a lot of accessibility in terms of who's able to come to meetings and that kind of stuff. And so I'm really excited to bring that forward into next year, as well as just start new stuff and hit the ground running.
I'm Matthew Chu, and I'll be next year's treasurer. I'm a first-year BMed major, and I worked on the EpiPen redesign project this year, and yeah, that's it.
Hey, I'm Julian. I'm a first year BMed, second year next year. I'm going to be the secretary, and again, thanking the current officers and also my two group leads, Drew and Ellie, very helpful. But yeah, looking forward to next year and all the new ideas that the new members come up with. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jack. I'm currently a third-year BMed, and I'll be continuing my role with next year, just keeping project information updated and then probably archiving some of the old projects and whatnot. So yeah, looking forward to next year.
Hi, I'm Crystal. I'm going to be next year's social media chair. I'm a second year BMed major and I worked on the Electrolyte imbalance project. And I also wanted to thank the current officers. You all helped us a lot during this time. And I just want to say I'm pretty excited to work with you all next year.
Aubrey's not here, but she is a third year BMed student, I believe, and she will be our outreach chair. And then Emily is our current treasurer going on to co-VP. And she is a second year ME. Yep.
All right, well, I think that's it for the introductions. Thank you for everyone who can make the last general meeting of this year. And yeah, hopefully we'll be in person next year. It seems like it. So we'll have in-person meetings and in-person social events. We're really looking forward to it. Does anyone have any final thoughts? All right then. Good luck everyone on finals, and I hope to see you guys next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.